hesitation was okay, but that thought you had?
When companies work human, people stay through anything.
Your quick thinking saved us. You saw something. It's changed everything. You may think we don't see you, but I'm so glad you were the one in the room with me.
When people are recognized, they feel seen. They feel they belong.
Good job.
Because without the human, it's just work.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Scott Dussault. I am the Chief Financial Officer for Workhuman, and I am delighted to be here today with Kathleen Parrish. Kathleen Parrish is the Chief People Officer at Nasuni, which is a cloud file services company. Kathleen and I have worked together both at Nasuni and also at Demandware, where she also ran human resources. Kathleen is a veteran in human resources, having worked not just at Nasuni and Demandware, but also at Royal Caribbean, among others. So she's got a wealth of experience within human resources, more than 20 years of human resource experience. And I want to just first introduce Workhuman and what we're doing, and then we'll get right into the topic of recognition and strategic recognition, and how you can approach it and why it's so important and what needs to be done about recognition in today's environment. So Workhuman is a mission-driven company whose goal it is to make work more human for every person on the planet. We fundamentally believe that when employees are seen and valued and recognized, that they'll perform better and companies will thrive. And for more than 20 years, we've been pioneering the human workplace by disrupting legacy and obsolete HR approaches to improve the employee experience at work with solutions that engage with approximately 7 million employees in 30 plus languages in 180 countries, generating 100 million moments of human connection, all through the Workhuman Cloud, which is a secure software as a service platform that provides the industry best in class social recognition solution. So today, Kathleen and I are here to talk about the value of recognition and the impact that can have throughout an organization. And when you think about where we are coming out of the pandemic, and I always like to quote Larry Fink here, who said in BlackRock's annual report back in 2021 that no relationship has been changed more by the pandemic than the one between employers and employees, and it's never going to change. The world is fundamentally changed as a result of how and the changes that have happened since we've come out of the pandemic. Companies of every size are grappling with the new ways of work, hybrid environments, the Great Resignation, and now, given the current economic outlook, I'm talking to so many people who are concerned about employee engagement and retention. And to me, it means that time is now to invest in recognition, not less. If you don't have a program, you've got to get one. If you have one already, take a hard look at it and think about how you can make it better. The key is that you have to have a strategic implementation and execution and recognition. In my time at Workhuman, I've seen more and more companies understand the power of gratitude. They're putting recognition programs in place, but too many of these programs just fall short. They're not aligned with basic business objectives. They don't have capabilities that deliver data-driven insights. They're not strategic, they're tactical. They're not peer-to-peer or crowdsourced. That means that companies aren't realizing all the benefits that they could. So over the next hour or so, Kathleen and I will be discussing why it makes good business sense to invest in a strategic recognition program, as every company now has a distributed workforce of some kind, and especially given the current economic outlook. We're going to talk about the key elements of recognition program success, the common challenges that folks that are implementing recognition programs have and how we can overcome them, and how recognition is the foundation to the future of work. Okay, so Kathleen, first, 2.5 years ago when you and I were together, the world fundamentally changed. And you and I were in the middle of March. We're talking about what are we going to do? How do we fix this problem? Everybody's home and nobody's in the office anymore. We had a very, very strong office culture at Nasuni where employees would recognize one another with value magnets that you came up with. when they demonstrated company values, and then suddenly, boom, we're all home. Tell me what that was like for you as a chief people officer, and how you evolved sort of the program that we had in the office, where employees were recognizing one another for demonstrating company values, and how we took that from a digital experience.
Right. So thank you, Scott, and thank you for having me here to go through this. So yes, when you first created the values, and then we built those into magnets, working with our Nasuni Cares group, which is part of Nasuni, and we look to these folks to help out as we implement projects. When the pandemic hit, everyone started working from home, and on a regular basis, we had to communicate what we were going to do, and how do we deal and work in this new environment. And you and I worked closely on sending out messages on a regular basis, and these were more health, well-being, and really to make sure people felt acclimated to working from home, because yes, you have remote folks, you have global folks, but it's okay, how do we strategically think about what we did, and how do we build off what we already put in place? And some of the things that we thought about, in addition to when we had a recognition program, such as it was called Uni Award, it's how do we grow off this, because a lot of that stuff really festered from actually being close-knit in the building, working with employees and recognizing our folks. So how do we do this globally? And we put in a program with regard to really using the Slack channel, so this can get across all departments, all employees, whether they're remote, whether they're global. And so it really had to get a sponsorship to build this program, and making sure that we were strategic in how we did align this. But that's one of the things that we set up, and and built into our philosophy, dealing with this new way that we're doing business.
And one of the things that I loved about what we did there, and what we do at Workhuman as well, is the concept of peer-to-peer and crowdsource, right? To me, that was critically important, because now we're all home, and it was hard to really see where work is being done, where great work is being done, and who was performing. And so the idea of peers recognizing peers, and then having the ability for folks that see that recognition to then weigh in on the work that was being done. And we've got a very similar approach in how we view recognition at Workhuman. We fundamentally believe that peer-to-peer and crowdsource is the best way to increase engagement, and ensure that employees feel seen. And so without question, I think I'd say almost an evolution from the program that you put in place on the Uni Awards with Value Magnets, to a digital program, which was that everybody got to see it. I'd go down to your office, and I'd put a magnet on the file cabinet behind you, which is metal, and say, awesome, Kathleen, on something that this great work that you did around building this team. You got one of the magnets, right? There you go. But you're the only one that saw that, right? Unless someone was in your office. And so almost in a way, the pandemic enabled us to then digitize that solution, so that recognition moment wasn't something that you and I just had together. And most legacy recognition programs, that's the problem, right? It's a moment in time, and it's not something that's broadcast throughout the organization, so that others can see that recognition moment and get inspired by it.
Right. And to build off that, we came up with the program because of the change in times, and what was the objective of that, and we're still trying to meet the objective of building into, what has transpired over the past years that can help this program grow. We wanted a culture of recognition. We wanted to support the values. And so, you hit the nail on the head with regards to that. It's that peer-to-peer recognition, which was one of the pieces that we thought about. Okay, how is it that we can keep these people engaged? How can we make sure that it doesn't come from the manager, it doesn't come from human resources, but it comes from the peers, and that they drive this, and that by putting this on Slack and really having the employees run with this, they're the ones who ultimately drove this. And and we see the return on investment of this, because monitoring it and measuring it to see, okay, we are getting more engagement, we're getting more people who are responding to the Slack channel, and we see the growth of this. And so this is just one of those things that we knew that we were going in the right direction of how we were thinking and what we wanted to actually get as an outcome.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And I think it's very similar to stories that I hear from other companies, either from Workhuman prospects or customers. Everybody, right? 4.5 million Americans quit their job in November of 2021. It was a record month for resignations in the heat of the Great Resignation coming out of the pandemic. And then 4.3 million, I think, resigned in December, right? So you think about how many, what the problem and the challenge that companies all over are having today. They're having, they're grappled with improving company culture, increasing engagement, improving retention. And at Nasuni, one of the things that we did to address that was building an in-house program. And really, if you want a recognition program, there's essentially 3 options. You can have an ad hoc recognition program, you can build your own solution, or you can buy one. So let's dig into a little deeper into what makes recognition successful and some of the things that you've seen at Nasuni, some of the things that our customers see at Workhuman, the challenges that come up and how to solve them. So we're going to talk about strategic alignment and in our next topic here, and linking core values and business objectives. Getting executive buy-in, so important in a recognition program, as you know, Kathleen, in terms of what you first built and how that's evolved, and broad adoption. One of the things that I think is so important, and we talk to our customers about with recognition, is that social recognition, an effective solution, has to be aligned with business strategy, right? You want to make sure that you're connecting your employees with the company goals and objectives. So you have to reinforce those goals and objectives and values to connect the employees to a shared purpose-driven mission. And that's, I think, incredibly valuable. So talk a little bit about how you did that at Nasuni, what you're doing at Nasuni, how that concept of e-thanks tied to value in Slack, was able to get, you were able to get that buy-in and adoption over time as it was introduced. Because again, even though we had the values magnets in the office, now we're doing this digitally. And how do you get that broad adoption for recognition so that you can ensure that everybody's a participant? How did that happen for Nasuni?
So first, we wanted to make sure that the program made sense, and we were building off of a program that we already had in place, so people understood the values. So we already knew the values of what we were following. This just wasn't words that we stick in our handbook. They weren't things that that people just like what our values were: integrity, quality, teamwork, accountability, and transparency. A lot of people can just put those words out there and say, oh yeah, okay, it's words in a handbook. And so it's to sit there and say, it's already working for us with our Uni Award. It's already been halfway built. But because of the changing landscape, what we ended up doing is saying, okay, let's go to the folks that are internal. And we had a Nasuni Cares group. We also called it the Culture Club. It was called Culture Club when you were there. Yep. And what could that group do to help us facilitate this, to say, okay, we know we're going in the right direction. So this group helped us design a program, really said, okay, what's the end result here? And as I stated, we did want to see about that, culture of recognition, make sure that we did support the values, and see, did this make employees feel more engaged? And so with those things as our end goal, we then pushed this out to so the higher management team and said, okay, is this do we feel that this is actually going to work? And getting buy-in from the employees, starting from this Nasuni Cares group, and then saying, okay, it's, it still has to, be approved and looked at from the top down. And do we get buy-in here? And they said, absolutely. Everyone thought that this made sense. So then we grew from there. And so when we took that program, we said Slack was such an easy avenue for folks to communicate with, and everyone is already used to using Slack. It's a quick hit, peer-to-peer. Everyone sees it. It's immediate. It's you don't have to put anything so detailed, and it just actually made sense. Right. And from this program, what we ended up doing is saying, okay, we actually looked at employees who were giving peer-to-peer feedback, positive peer-to-peer feedback, that we said, hey, how do we reward this? How do we, not only were they feeling, empowered by getting positive comments from their own employees, and everyone is seeing this, right. You don't realize what that effect has and how it emulates throughout the whole business.
Absolutely.
And then how do we capture that? And so the final piece that we rolled into this is, okay, let's look at, these people who are getting these great responses. let's reward that, and not it couldn't be a cash reward, because as you know, cash rewards sometimes don't work as powerful as what we're doing here in Slack,
Right.
with regards to, being noticed for the values that you're following. But it's more so, hey, we gave these Unibucks. So they're called Unibucks for our store. We have an internal store that we have set up that employees can go to, use these Unibucks and cash them in for items. And so we feel that, that's a newer piece to this, but it seems to be working and going in the right direction. But I think the main thing here is really people are so engaged on Slack. You can see a 50% of the same people going here and actually either responding or posting. And, and this keeps building on a monthly basis.
You say, what I love about your story and how you've evolved it with your concept of Unibucks as branding too, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when we, our customers are using Workhuman solution and it's branded, it's important to them. And when they roll it out, it's LinkedIn's Bravo program, right? I mean, and it becomes something that the employees, like, it becomes their lingo. Like I here at Nasuni, at Workhuman, it's a spark, right? So for us, it's, you spark somebody today, and it becomes part of the lingo, almost like, did you Google this? Did you spark somebody? And so and so what that does is it gets the, from a broad adoption perspective, you start seeing it become viral, right? Because people, and it becomes a benefit for the employee, because the employee, when they get recognized in a social recognition manner, peer-to-peer with crowdsource, feels like they're performing meaningful work, that they're really contributing to company goals and objectives, right? Because Workhuman, our solution, when an employee recognizes another employee, they, like you at Nasuni, they select a value, right? And what value did you represent? Because values in many companies are just words on paper, but they really are meaningful because they drive how a company is run and how business operates. And so when an employee selects a value and then they write their recognition moment, that recognition moment includes words that are tied to that value. So you're aligning goals and objectives you're aligning company goals and objectives to that employee behavior. And that's what every company is trying to do. They want to be able to do that. And at the same time, the company is benefiting from that, because employees are in fact striving to perform and to gear their efforts towards company goals and objectives. And that helps the company. And the employee, when they get recognized, to your point, they love it. They feel great. They feel like the work is meaningful. And so that benefits the employee. It's a win-win for both the employee and the employer when it's done right, when it's branded. And we had done some work about the power of appreciation, and it is real. It's palpable. People who are thanked, the impact of folks that are thanked, they're 2 times more likely to be engaged. They're 2 times more likely to feel respected at work. They're 3 times more likely to see a path to grow in their organization, and they're half as likely to leave, right? So when you think about the power of that, right, in Nasuni's world, where you're recognizing someone on Slack, in LinkedIn or Johnson & Johnson or Merck or some of our customers' worlds of being recognized on the Workhuman platform, it has real business impact. It has true ROI, and it's not just something that's soft. Our data shows it. So that's really interesting. So I want to go a little further on how you've evolved the Uni Award and how you've involved your recognition on Slack with Unibucks, and talk about a reward network. Because I think one of the things that to me is incredibly important is that a formal and especially a digital recognition program, peer-to-peer and crowdsource, is incredibly important. But it's also important to have a reward network. Employees want to feel recognized, but they all also want to feel like they're getting rewarded for that recognition. Like the work that they're doing is meaningful, is getting some element of recognition. And so, we view our reward experience here as something that's personal and memorable. And research has shown that only a program that only offers cash won't have, as you pointed out, the needed cultural change of employee engagement. And so, cash is a form of compensation. It pays the bills. So how did you evolve what you did at Nasuni to include compensation as part of the recognition moment?
So for the Uni Award, the way that began is, and as you know, it evolved, so much. It's like, who does the nominations. It shouldn't come from an exec team level. It should come from the own peers. And so this program has evolved, and it evolved to a point where we tested that, there is a cash component to an actual cash component, which is $2,000. But then we have another component to it, which is $100 to use towards the Unibuck store. And we wanted to see, and so you can apply that $100 to that Nasuni store. And since we got feedback on that, and you got the recognition, even the people who nominated folks, they actually get Unibucks. And I believe I apologize, I think it's $100 for nominating the winner. And so, and they get $100 or 100 Unibucks. And so they're able to use that Unibucks in the store. And then that evolved where we said, okay, let's look at the Slack channel and what we're doing with regards to the value magnets. And so if you're giving someone, say, this value magnet, that reward is that we choose someone within the month that gets 25 Unibucks. I'm still getting the lingo down, but they get 25 Unibucks to be used towards the store. And people you can see people, or you can hear people starting to use that lingo, like you're saying, like you have Spark, that these Unibucks, it's like, how many Unibucks do I get? And now we're starting to apply those Unibucks across the company. It is a fairly new concept with the Unibucks that started off at the beginning of the year, but we know that this is going to grow, that people are recognizing, that people are starting to use that lingo. And that's how we know that it's creating that culture that we're asking for, and that we're utilizing the support, that we're supporting the value magnets, and that it's being accepted. And that's one, part of the program that we're taking a look at, that if this is being accepted, if you want to see your name in the bright lights on Slack, then you're going to be driven there. And then it's almost like paying it forward, because once you start reading through the comments and the positiveness of how the Slack channel is operating, you're going to want to do the same. And so we now know,
Kathleen, spot on. And it's funny, you're spot on. And it's not, so, 100% spot on. We have, part of our Workhuman Cloud includes data, right? We utilize artificial intelligence, machine learning, and natural language programming within the Workhuman Cloud. It's called Workhuman IQ, and we accumulate data. And not only do we provide quantitative feedback to our customers about frequency of recognition and how that has a tangible ROI, but also qualitative feedback on how work is getting done. And our data has shown that there's a flywheel effect, just like you just described that you're seeing at Nasuni. There is a flywheel effect that within the Workhuman Cloud, when our customers' employees are recognizing somebody, and I get recognition, and then I go into our global store and then redeem those points for something meaningful for me, that I then come back out and I recognize somebody. I'm more prone, I'm more likely to recognize somebody for something that I've seen them do. I'm paying attention to it, and I want them to, because I want them to have the same experience. So there's a flywheel effect with recognition and the reward network that you just described. You're seeing, our customers see it as well. I'll tell you that one example of why I think a reward network is so important, and 100% agree with you that non-cash monetary is so important, and what you guys are doing in terms of having this again, a flywheel effect, but almost this cult-like obsession with Unibucks, and our customers' cult-like obsession with points, right, and a point system. There was I work with somebody who is an executive administrator at Workhuman, and at the end of last year, she came into my office and she said, I just want to thank you again for hiring me at Workhuman. I love working here. I love the fact that my work is seen and recognized, and that others see what I do and I'm recognized for it. And that makes me feel like I'm truly contributing, to the company and what we're trying to accomplish here. She goes, but also, I was able to redeem all of my points that I accumulated during last year, and I didn't have to purchase a single Christmas present for my son. And you think about the impact of that, right? And you and I talk about this when it comes to cash as a form of compensation. When we were together at Nasuni, let's say she was going to spend let's say she redeemed $500 worth of points and redeemed them in our store for merchandise that she was able to give her son for Christmas, and it was worth $500. If we didn't have a recognition program, a formal recognition program like we do, and instead we had like a spot bonus program. First of all, she doesn't get recognized as frequently. Second of all, she gets only recognized between manager and employee. Nobody sees it. So she doesn't feel that same sense of value creation because others aren't seeing that recognition moment. But if she got a spot bonus for, call it $500 in like April, there's no way she comes into my office after Christmas and says, hey, thanks for that $500 cash bonus that you gave me back in April. I was able to save that money and buy my son his Christmas present. This doesn't happen, right? Psychologically, that would never happen. But because she had this program of recognition combined with a reward network that she was able to then redeem for something meaningful for her, she tied that to the company. She tied that back to a connection with the company. You just don't get that when you do cash, right? Cash is a form of compensation. And one of the things that I think about a lot and that I talk about a lot when I'm talking to Workhuman customers and prospects is engagement with recognition and rewards, right? When you think about how to recognize and then reward an employee and how it relates to engagement, right? Because think about payroll, and we talk a lot about investing at a baseline 1% of your payroll in recognition. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, I'm not sure what Nasuni's raises were this year, but I'll give you an example. When I talked to a customer in the spring, he told me that their raises were 4%, 4.1% to be exact. And I said, so how much engagement did you get from that 4.1%? And his response, he kind of shrugged his shoulders and, was like, not much. I'm like, yeah, probably the first paycheck, the employees saw that they had an increase in their pay, and maybe they felt more connected to this customer, this gentleman's company. Maybe the second paycheck, maybe the third. By the third paycheck, they forgot what their old paycheck was. You and I know, right? And they're probably now complaining to you because gas was $6 a gallon in California, which is where I happen to meet this person. And so cash is a form of compensation. So I said to him, well, let me ask you this. What if instead of 4% or 4.1%, you did 3.1% in your annual raises? And, how much more engagement would you get? Or how much less engagement would you get, right? Because if you're only getting a month or a month and a half of true engagement and connectivity to your company, what if you did 3%, but then took that 1% and then allocated it to a formal recognition program with a reward network, non-cash monetary reward network, and gave that employee frequent recognition all throughout a year, right? Or made sure that employee received frequent recognition all throughout a year. Our data shows it. Employees that get 4 more recognition moments a year are 2 times less likely to leave. It's just what our data shows, right? We can see that throughout all our customers that's what's happening in that environment because employees feel that they're being recognized and they get that same investment in recognition. So it's not just about getting a cash award or getting a bonus or getting a raise. It's so important to have recognition tied with a reward network.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And, and that's something, we need to take into consideration is that, it's just not the raise that you're giving. It's what else can you do with the funds where, you are recognizing those high performers that, that people feel more engaged. Right. And guarantee if I asked every, employee here at Nasuni, what their thoughts were around that, they would agree. They would say, if we have programs in place where I can be recognized, really for the performance that they put in addition to, market increases, then, it's your company would benefit as a whole. And as you stated, it's proven that this works.
Right. So, next topic, global perspective. I know you guys are expanding like a weed globally. When we were together, we had a large presence in Clerkenwell, in London. I know I think you've moved out of Clerkenwell, but I know you've got a presence in London. I know you opened up an innovation hub in Cork, Ireland. Yes. You're expanding into Europe. Our customers are global at Workhuman. We've got some of the largest organizations in the world that are recognizing their employees with a formal program on a global basis. And so recognition programs have to be global. You can't have a program where only half your company is eligible to be recognized, right? The biggest problem with the legacy recognition systems, or the way legacy recognition approaches, is not everybody gets included, right? What's more inclusive than a global recognition program that's peer-to-peer? What's more inclusive than that, right? So it has to be global, and you need to ensure that both the software that you're using or program that you're building reaches every employee, so that every employee has the opportunity to be recognized or will be recognized, and you're including 100% of your workforce. you've also got to make sure that, again, the reward network or the items that your employees are getting as a non-cash monetary reward are relevant to their local area where they live, their geography. So how has that happened at Nasuni? How have you evolved at Nasuni as you guys have gone from being a company that was primarily Boston-based to global, and making sure that recognition is seen on a global basis?
This is one of the pieces to this that where, the pandemic, you have to say, all right, some positives come out of this is that, we had to be global. You were forced to make sure that, because you hate to say, if you're at the headquarters such as I am in Boston, if I'm at the headquarters, these people are getting more of my attention, or they're getting more of the attention that people coming into the office. And it forced us to really think about how do we really connect with those folks that are remote. And I struggled this as an HR person my whole career. It's like, how do we engage everyone? Even if you work at home and you're like, oh, they would get to work at home, those are the perks, that you're working from home. No, but you still need to feel as though that those people connected to all the offices. And as you stated, yes, we did, open an office in the UK, in Paddington and in Cork, and we do have people remote in, in Germany and other office areas. And it's, how do we tie that in? And our program did do this, but meaning the values magnet did address this, but it's like, how do you know that you're addressing the right things? Meaning, are we sell or offering the right pieces on our Nasuni store?
Right.
Do the people in Germany want to purchase the same things?
Exactly.
What about shipping? Shipping is so different. There are these nuances that we had to struggle with. It's like, wait a minute, we can't have it shipped from here. We actually have to open a store there, so everything can ship from there. And you're like, what? It's worth it, because we're seeing the impact that people are getting affected in what they're purchasing on the site. And so in that global piece, it's not just thinking about, oh yes, I'm reaching out to them. It's like, okay, wait a minute. What are their dynamics? How do they operate? What do they like? What don't they like? What are their office hours? When we have our Nasuni Say Cares meetings, are they set up, at a later time zone that makes it difficult for them? When we're making all of these decisions, we really need to think about all of these things, the shipping, the conversations that you're having, when you're having them, who's involved. Vacation time, bank holidays, really taking all that into consideration is what we're doing here in headquarters. It's not just a headquarters central, function. It's everyone's business, and everyone has to almost be considered as though they're working from corporate.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think, you and I have been doing this way too long, if we don't want to share our ages, but that's always been a challenge, right? It's even a challenge. I mean, frankly, it can be a challenge even in East and West Coast, but when you get into global operations, ensuring that employees are connected and engaged is enormous challenge. And so when I think about the global perspective and the global recognition programs in particular, three things really come to mind. One is certainly ensuring that to your point exactly, that global employees are all one, as opposed to an us versus them. And you want everybody to be inclusive in a recognition program. You want everybody to be able to be seen. I started Workhuman during the pandemic. I started a little more than a year ago, and not only that, but I think I've got well more than 100 people on my team that sit in Dublin. And so what was great for me was I was able to use our software to actually see how work was getting done, see who was doing what, right? Because I'm sitting at home, I'm in my office at home, all by myself. You at least have your cats. I was by myself, but I'm able to actually now go and see who's being recognized on my team. And I'm able to kind of chime in and be like, oh, that's awesome. Hey, great to meet you, right? That's how I was meeting people. And it was great for both me and great for the employees over there, because we were connecting in a way that really we couldn't any other way, right? But having a program like this that's digitized, that you can be seen on a global basis, is important. A second that you mentioned that was, I think, that we hit on too, is our customers our customers are demanding that we, reach their employees in these global locations, and make sure that, a software solution that's written just in English isn't going to work in Germany, to your point, right? You need to make sure, that you can potentially evolve that, as Nasuni grows and potentially you may look to Workhuman, for example, for help. We have German language in our software, right? So you've got to be able to meet the employees where they are. And then your point exactly, redemption, the items of redemption, in every country and every culture, they need to be appropriate to those cultures. You know, folks that redeem for something with a Unibuck or with Workhuman points. You know, they're not going to necessarily want the same items of redemption items that somebody in Boston wants, somebody in Germany might want. They're going to want something different. They also want it to be sourced locally. They want to take 100 years for it to get delivered. You want to be able to make that experience really the great experience that folks are having, employees are having, humans are having on their with their recognition moments, have to have that same great experience when they're getting redemption offers, right? And so that's why, you know, our reward network servicing companies that are global in more than 180 countries needs to have that ability, needs to be able to deal with translations and currency conversions, which ours does. And I think that's, as Nasuni grows, something that you're going to be thinking about as well.
Right. Absolutely.
So, you know, the next thing I want to talk about is the future of work, and I think why recognition is so critical. And fortunately or unfortunately, you're in your office, I'm in my office, but that's just because I knew that my backdrop was going to be better than the Manchester United shirt that's sitting behind my desk at home. But you know, we're in this new future work, and I want to talk a little bit about this. You know, and I started our conversation really with this when I talked about Larry Fink and BlackRock's annual report, and talking about you know, the future of work and the importance of the human connection in what's now likely going to be a remote/hybrid environment, and how more important than ever recognition is. And coming out of the pandemic, you know, we're never going back to 2019 again, right? Employees, even in an environment where we could be in a recessionary environment, there's still a skill shortage in this country, you know, and so employees are more valuable than ever before, and they're demanding more than ever before. They're demanding things. They're demanding flexibility, right? I'm seeing, and I'd love to hear what you're seeing at Nasuni, but you know, when I talk to customers and employees here, employees want flexibility, right? They want flexibility about where they work, when they work, what they wear to work, you know, how they work. It's just, they want that. They're basically saying, look, two and a half years ago, we all went home and we executed really well. And it wasn't working from home, it was living at work. And from a transactional perspective, it was effective. From a connectivity perspective is where we've struggled, right? And so as we come out of this, you know, environment where employees are going back 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever it is, or if they're going in 5 days but working different hours, to your point, even when you've got cultural changes and cultural differences, how is it that you're thinking about that from an HR perspective, particularly around the recognition environment for remote and hybrid employees? Because I heard you say when you talked about international employees or people that aren't there, that in the office, they're not, you're worried that they're not being seen as much.
There's, you know, there's so many aspects to it. Again, as I stated, there are some things that came out of this that where we really have to make sure that we're consistently thinking of the other person outside of the office. And, you know, in all of this, this isn't a nice to have. This is, you know, the way of the business and how we have to move forward. And, you know, the recognition, and it's going to be used loosely. I think we're even starting it here, is that when you think of recognition, it has a bigger meaning than just, okay, you think in rewards and I want to be rewarded. It's more so you need the recognition to make sure that you're including everyone that operates outside of your peripheral in your field of view. And you know, you have your social recognition, and you have to understand the framework of that, and that everyone has to agree on that direction. And you know, the workforce is more global. It's multi-generational, it's social, it's mobile, and you know, there are hierarchies that we have to take into consideration. And if we don't address that and think about that, we will fail. And whatever program you're putting in, whatever business decision you're making, whatever direction you're going in, it's to include those folks and make them feel a part of that business. Because if someone doesn't feel a part, they don't feel like they're growing with your business, they will leave. And that's where you talk about this retention and this reward system. And that's, if you put that all into the same, say, bundle, you'll get traction from it, and you'll see where the percentages, you know, where your return on investment comes. And that when you're looking at monitoring the metrics, you're going to see that if you look at the analytics, that you're actually going to see that they're moving in the right direction that a business should be.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Kathleen, too, because one of the things that, as you and I are well aware of, the cost to replace an employee is massive, right? And
Yeah.
I think IDC reported that the cost to replace an employee that leaves costs U.S. companies $600 billion a year. So more than $500 billion. It's anywhere from 50% to 200% of the employee's salary. Not to mention the lost institutional knowledge that walks out the door. So losing employees is so important. But when you think about one of the challenges that's happening today that I'm hearing is about new hires, even new hires that leave within the first year, and it's a big issue that became even bigger, I think, during this pandemic time, right? When employees are hired in a hybrid environment or an environment where they're not immediately being able to make that connection, right, with their company because they're working from home, or maybe they're working in a hybrid environment and they're not able to build those connections, immediately. So utilizing technology, to allow the unseen to become seen, or unlock hidden human connections between individuals or groups, or find out where collaboration is happening, or just simply ensuring that employees are connected. Our data has shown that on our platform that when employees using Workhuman are recognized, they're 5 times as likely to leave. And these are new hires in their first year. They're 5 times as likely to leave if they're recognized, right? So, people who are recognized that's incredible, right? I mean, when you think about that challenge and the challenge in this new environment where you've got, new hires that are like I did, starting from home, it's so hard to make that connection when they're not together every day, and ensuring that you've got, to your point, ensuring that you've got digital solutions to ensure that employees feel like they're being recognized, feel that they're being seen, feel like they're contributing to the company's goals and objectives, will keep them connected. And your point on return on investment, that is a big deal. We've seen, we did a study with Gallup that said that a 10,000 employee company that institutes a recognition as part of their culture, formal branded recognition as part of their culture, can save $16 million annually on employee turnover with an investment in recognition. Right? It's a real and evidence proven ROI when your employees are seen and valued and recognized and know that they've got meaning that they're delivering.
Right. Yeah. And one of the, I remember reading this somewhere that, it's a 15% in improvement in engagement can actually drive 2% improvements in operational margins. Absolutely. And which is, I mean, think about that. And like, what's your margin? And these are numbers that, analytics, HR analytics is huge now. And, you have dedicated people who get these numbers for you, and it's real.
It is. And that's why, when we use artificial intelligence within Workhuman IQ, that's our intent, right? We want to make sure that our customers understand that formal recognition programs have a tangible ROI. You brought up productivity, 100%. And it seems intuitive, but when you actually see the data, you see that it's 100% works. It's 100% provides an ROI on things like engagement, productivity, retention, safety, absenteeism. There's ROIs in every one of these areas that really benefit the employer. And again, I go back to the impact that recognition has on employees. It's expected of employees today. In our report that we the report that we did with Gallup, 40% of employees who reported that said that they had a recognition moment were more engaged, versus 29% of employees who didn't have a recognition program, right? So they felt engaged. So again, if you're not recognizing your employees, they're not engaged. If your employees are not engaged, they're going to leave, or they're more likely to leave. They're not going to be connected. There's certainly this new term, quiet quitters, right? That's making headlines today, right? This idea of quiet quitters. Those are disengaged employees. Those are employees that feel like their work is not meaningful, that they're not being valued for what they do, that they're not contributing to company goals and objectives, right? So it's super important to ensure that employees are seen and valued and recognized, and it's got to be done on a global, formal basis.
It does. And like I said, we were just talking about metrics and, saying you have to do it because, who likes numbers and who who's you trying to keep a business thriving and keeping employees employed? Obviously you, CFO, and and where you sit, it's, a lot of people just expect HR to be, I think I mentioned this earlier, just to be the pushes of some of this stuff, but no, it's when you can show the analytics on this and that it makes sense, and you work in tandem with your CEO, your executive officers, it's proven, and and it helps with turnover. But the other thing is the employees. It's so important to employees because they're our number one asset here, and it's how do you get them engaged, and they have to sponsor this as well. And so it's a full circle life cycle in work. And we're not just here to make things pretty and that you get your paycheck. It's more so you get that work-life balance. And how do you do that within this engagement and with putting things out there that make you want to work for a company such as Workhuman or Nasuni?
Like, yeah, Kathleen, I go back to this, and I emphasize this over and over again, but I'll give you a financial point, 2 financial points.
Right.
Because how much we love talking about numbers, but no, you think about, again, 2.5 years ago, so many human capital resource software applications in the past were administrative, solving process solutions, solving administrative problems like payroll, right? And so many folks, I think, stereotype the CHRO as administrative, right? And therefore the applications themselves are administrative. Today, the world's changed. Right, you became strategic to every organization 2.5 years ago when we all went home. Right, how do because first of all we had to figure out how to make people productive, but then we had to make people connected. And now today the CHRO is as strategic or I would argue more strategic than a CFO. In terms of ensuring that employees are engaged. So when I think about the importance of recognition, the importance of what you're doing, think about what the SEC did. The SEC. The Securities and Exchange Commission has been around since 1933. And for about 90 years, the only thing they required public companies to disclose in their annual reports was how many employees and where they're located. But you just said, if your employees are your most important investment, when you and I started our careers, the adage was the beatings will continue until morale improves. Well, that's no longer the case, right? And now the SEC is requiring disclosure about culture in their annual reports, right? Turnover rates, like what's your culture like? What are your are you a great place to work? What are your employees saying about your company? The need to invest in your people is greater than ever in any environment, whether it's recessionary, whether you're in a boom environment. The need to invest in your employees is greater than ever. And I'm psyched to see how you've evolved. What we kind of started sitting in our home offices back in March of 2020 and trying to figure out how to make sure we keep our employees engaged to where you are today. Our customers' employees love what we're doing from a recognition perspective, and our customers are certainly seeing that ROI. So we're going to go to Q&A, but I want to just the key takeaways that I'd like to just summarize here for everybody. I think it's clear that strategic recognition is needed now. There's no alternative. Companies that are thriving are the ones that put the human first and investing in recognition and ensuring that they are connected to their organizations. You're making decisions on people, like you said, it's the most important asset. People drive organizations. Culture is not something that's manufactured. It's driven by the organization, right? It's driven by the people, as you and I talked about when we formed the Culture Club. How do we make culture part of our company, not something that's a mandate? And when you start something, keep evolving it. Recognition programs today, again, you can either have an ad hoc program, build something like you're building, or buy a strategic program like Workhuman. You've got to keep evolving it, and you're going to, as Nasuni becomes 1,200 people like Workhuman is, you're going to have that challenge and evolve it as well. I'm biased, but I think that what we've built at Workhuman on a global recognition program is a terrific and valuable solution that's providing so much value back to our customers. Employees feel like they're actually providing meaningful work and contributing to their company goals and objectives, and companies are getting the benefit of that with a more connected, engaged employee who doesn't leave. And that's what we all want. So we're gonna go Q&A. Thank you so much. Awesome conversation as always. It was great to see you. Next time we'll be together. I promise.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Kathleen, that was awesome. Thank you again for participating and for talking through that with me. I really enjoyed the conversation. And to all the folks that joined, thank you so much. There are a million questions, really great questions. I appreciate all the interaction. I know, Kathleen, you addressed some of the Nasuni specific questions. I tried to consolidate some of the questions that had similar themes. Maybe we can walk through them together on general recognition. There were a lot of questions about the store, and I know Kathleen, just to clarify too, Kathleen is the Chief People Officer at Nasuni, and she built an internal recognition program utilizing Slack as a communication tool. And their reward component of that, as Kathleen pointed out, in the store is different Nasuni branded items that employees can redeem their points for. Workhuman, as a vendor, and we're also a customer of our own software, we developed the Workhuman Cloud, which is really three things. First, it's our social recognition, performance development, and feedback tools. We have also built our own commerce store. So when employees are recognized that use our software, they receive points, and those points have a monetary value, and the monetary value is then redeemed inside the store for millions of items of merchandise, gift cards, experiences, e-certs, charities, whatever it is that the employee wants. And again, it's almost like it's a marketplace of items that they can redeem. And when I talked about the data, there was some questions about the data. Because we're a SaaS platform, we can collect data on frequency of recognition and identify or correlate frequency of recognition to a number of different things to demonstrate ROI. There were questions about how we gather that data and how we're able to articulate it. And so, for example, we talked about engagement, productivity, turnover, which is a big deal, safety, absenteeism, wellness. We're able to go into our clients' environments and work with them to demonstrate to them that frequency of recognition has a correlation to these things. So more recognition means better wellness with their employees in terms of their feedback that they give their employer, which we also can collect for them. Or frequency of recognition has a correlation with lower turnover or propensity to stay. So a lot of that data is all that we're collecting on our platform, and that's in what we call Workhuman IQ, where we take the data that our customers, the behavioral-based data that our customers are saying to customers' employees are saying to one another, and quantify that. So those are the two areas there. There was some questions around mobility, and Kathleen, I'll share how we handle that, and you can address that as well. I saw a couple questions on manufacturing environments and people that are working together that maybe aren't remote. I think for us, the way, first of all, I think that recognition has no boundaries. Recognition does have a correlation with all of these things that are good in terms of employee engagement. And so whether you're together or not, employees do want to feel like their work is meaningful, that they're contributing. And so recognition is always important, regardless of where people are. Workhuman, our application can be on a mobile phone. We have an application for that. So employees that are in fact not at a desk or tied to a desk can still get recognition, and often do get recognition through their phone. In fact, most of our customers' employees, that's how they're using our application today, is through the mobile device. Recognition can be given both in words and on video. So an employee can receive recognition on video. And then I think also, so that I think addresses some of the questions related to folks that maybe aren't at a desk. Kathleen, do you have any other feedback on those questions that had that theme?
No, I tried to answer as much as possible because I was going to write that we actually had this in the beginning when I first started HR, when there was no mobile phone and what you do. And I think it's more just making sure that if you have company town meetings, you can promote it that way, or that there is some system in-house that then allows you to promote this via other communication means if you don't have Slack, because Slack can be on the phone as well as you're saying mobile means, but it's what's universal and what works best for your company. Take a look at it and then come up with a solution of, okay, what do we think is the best venue for this information to be disseminated?
Yep. No, that's great. There was a few questions, I think, around kind of the programs themselves and how how do you align with values, or how do you not water them down? And I think that's why it's really important to make sure that, or even what's the biggest challenge with the recognition program. And I think there was another question related to that saying recognition, why wasn't it around 20 years ago? It always has been around. If you think about it, it just hasn't been digitized or formalized or strategic in most organizations. You think about spot bonuses. Cisco used to have what they called a goodie drawer, where they gave their employees gift cards when they did something above and beyond. And so but you can't measure that. And it's typically not peer-to-peer. Someone asked the question, what does crowdsource mean? Well, crowdsource feedback is on our application. When somebody is recognized for representing company values, the person has to give a write-up of what they did, then assign the value that they represented. And then folks can then provide feedback to that because everybody sees it, and they can provide additional feedback as to what that person did or what that project was like, so that they can share in that moment. And so I think the key to a successful program is truly to ensure that it is universally rolled out. All of our customers roll this out across their entire company base. It's not something that's just a managed to employee. It's not something that is for certain groups. The entire company rolls this out. And I think data shows that traditional recognition moments happen between a minority of employees inside a company. And so with what Kathleen has built and what Workhuman sells is in fact peer-to-peer, right? And it's important to be peer-to-peer because we want to make sure that all of our peers, what's more inclusive than the ability for one peer to recognize another peer with a monetary value associated with it for work that's being done that's great and helps contribute to company goals and objectives. So it's important to make sure that that is a universally rolled out program. Anything to add to that, Kathleen?
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head, and that the more people that can participate in making a program decision, the better off it will work.
And I also think the 20 years ago question, I often joke because and we talked about this in the dialogue that we had, Kathleen, is that 20 years ago, it's a great question why people didn't have first of all, I think digitalization has certainly helped, right? Digitalization really wasn't something that was as prevalent 20 years ago to be able to reach and have a crowdsource social software like Workhuman. But the reality was, just as much as people talked about employees being the most important asset, frankly, it was always an employer market. And I think whenever we, coming out of the pandemic, as I mentioned about Larry Fink and how he said the world has fundamentally changed. And Kathleen, you and I were talking about this earlier today. The world has fundamentally changed, and employers understand that they need to prioritize their employees and make sure that employees are in fact connected and engaged in order for them to thrive. It's oftentimes you have to go through some difficult times in order to experience greatness. And I think the pandemic has shown organizations all across the world that they've got to focus on their employees, and they've got to make sure that they're investing in them. And I think that's one of the huge sort of tailwinds that's driving recognition programs today.
Right. I totally agree.
And then I think there was a question about small companies. And I know we've got a couple of minutes. I'm trying to get to as many as we can here. These are great questions, and I'll try to get together with my team and see if we can't address some of these.
Yeah, see if we can address them. I don't know. If we can respond to
yeah,
these
absolutely.
folks.
I mean, just for the small company thing. I mean, I think Kathleen, how many employees does Nasuni have today?
460.
It's 416. Our largest customer has 750,000. So recognition is something that companies of every segment and every size need to address today. Broad recognition, because employees want to know that they're bringing value to their business. They want to know, there was certainly a question about cash and living paycheck to paycheck. 100% cash is a table stake. Every company pays their employees. Every company has to pay their employees, and that's what they expect. The companies that thrive are the ones that put their human first to make sure that their employees are seen, are valued, are recognized, are contributing meaningfully. And I think that's something that doesn't have a size limit in terms of size of company. So.
Right. And again, I'm looking at a lot of the questions coming in, where we get our stuff and where the store is stocked. So I don't know if there's a way that we can, again, reach out to these folks and answer some of these questions. Are they taxable? We try not to put any tax on any employee. That would be really taking away from what we're fundamentally trying to do here. Here, I'm giving you a gift. Now I want to tax you on it.
Our program works the
anything
same.
at all costs. Not
program
at all
works the
costs,
same.
not tax you.
Well, this is great, Kathleen, and we will definitely circle back with some of these great questions. I appreciate the time that we spent. I appreciate all the questions from everyone here today. Thank you for joining, and hopefully we can do this again soon.